Good evening, everyone. And I think we can start. We can continue waiting. There are 12 of us here. So we'll start. We'll just do an hour lecture. Okay. So today we'll be looking at a particular topic called system development life cycle. Okay. I can want us to know if a new system, if you're bringing in a new system or you are modifying an existing system, you know. Who is speaking? Can you mute yourself, please? So somebody is speaking. Can you please mute yourself, please? Thank you. Okay. So, as I said, I can want us to know, want us to know if you are modifying an existing system or you are bringing in an entirely new system. There are some processes, there are procedures that are required, you know. So that's what this topic is all about. As I said, is it's called excuse me, system development life cycle. I'm distracted. I'm trying to log into something, and I'm same time talking. I'm distracted. Okay. So as I said, we'll be looking at system development life cycle. System development life cycle deals with organization trying to introduce a new system. When I mean system, I mean information system, or they're trying to edit an existing one or modify an existing one to suit them, either by way of upgrade, by way of adding some other model that wasn't there, you know. But whichever way, either you're getting a new one from the scratch, excuse me, or you are modifying an existing one, it all falls down to system development life cycle. So their process, you know, as the name goes, cycle. That means it starts from somewhere and ends at somewhere. So that's what we'll be looking at this evening. That was we'll be looking at this evening. So very quickly, as I said, I'm going to just teach for an hour. It's just one topic we'll look at. Everything on system development life cycle. We'll look at it for an hour. So this is 8:20. So by 9:20, God willing, I should be done. Okay. So so we go. So let me read from the screen. So system development life cycle refers to the process of developing a new or amending an existing information system. That's what I've explained to you before. You can have an existing and you want to add maybe a new model to it. You want to upgrade it, you know, for better efficiency and all. It's still student development life cycle. So when you pick several textbooks, you will see some of them have just 4 steps. I mean, 4 procedure. Some have, but I try to break the diagram I put. I try to break it down into the piece and bits that you will go through. So this cycle, from planning to all the way to maintenance, is a cycle from planning to maintenance. That is what we'll be looking at actually today. That's what we'll be looking at today. Okay. So the first stage, if you are going to into a new system or you're modifying an existing one, is planning. You must plan, also referred to as feasibility study. The popular saying, if you don't plan, or he who does not plan is definitely planning to fail, meaning you must plan. Either you're planning to succeed or planning to fail, you stay planning. Okay. So if you're getting into a new or modifying an existing system, you must plan. Like I remember vividly, we're using Sun system before. Yeah, Sun system before we went into SAP. I remember when we were planning, when the management has approved that, okay, you know what, guys, let's move ahead from Sun to SAP. A lot of planning went into it. How will it be compatible with us? Yeah, our
Please,
kind
what
of
is sun?
operation. Sorry?
I don't know what sound system,
Okay, Sun System is just like SAP, it's an ERP too. It's a software. Yes, it's a software. It's an ERP. That was what just like Finacle, even Oracle, SAP, Sun System, navigation, all these are various, softwares. Of course, I don't expect you that you have to know all of them. Yeah, but they are Sun Systems. Sorry, they are ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. Okay, so Sun System is a software we're using before. Yeah, it's a software we're using before. And before we upgraded, as it were. Okay. Um, so let's go. Let's go. Okay. So as I said, the first stage is the planning stage. First stage is the planning stage where you have to sit and think through what you want to, go into. Because don't forget, there are a lot of resources that will go into this, into like I could, if I remember vividly, some of us traveled for our training. Some had theirs in a co-hotel, some had theirs in the office. Each of all this training is huge. It's huge capital out there that is going out of the company. It's huge, you know. So what it means is that before you go into it, you must, think through it clearly, before you eventually go into it. Okay. So that said, so let's go into the stages one by one. The first stage is planning, 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 which is called feasibility study. So at this stage, what you are expected, or what is expected from you, is to think. You sit down and think through what you want to go into, and that will lead us to having that feasibility study. Feasibility study is, you want to ask yourself, what does the existing system do? you know does it require that we just modify the existing system instead of getting a new one? you know does it require that we just add another module instead of getting a new one? you know so all these are things you have to find out during the feasibility study. And again, this system we're saying we should introduce, are you sure it will solve our problem, so that we won't get a system, install a new software and install, and the problem is still persists? So you would have to find out this. um we have to find out this before we get into it. And all this you get to know all this during the feasibility study. Okay, because you are going to ask series of questions before you get into it. So typically, your feasibility study have a scope. You have to determine the time. It's not going to be something that will be forever. You have to be sure that the solution you are preferring must meet the problem or the need of the client. You identified various IT products that you would need, and of course, you must take cognizance of the cost. So typically, your feasibility study will have the following stages. First, you form the steering committee. Who are the steering committee? They are reps, representative of all units, of all departments. Don't forget, the software you are bringing would cover all the units, will cover all the departments. That's why it's an ERP, a single software that automates the entire business process, into one. So you get a rep, most likely the head of the department, because it's assumed that the head of the department is more knowledgeable about the department compared to any other person. So the head of the department, the head of the department most likely will be part of it. You get the head of finance, head of HR, head of production, head of supply chain, head of, bring all of them together. Those are the steering committee. Then you give them terms of reference. That our aim is to get, this software up and running within two. Ours took over more than 2 years before the implementation, before we eventually migrated to SAP. It took more than 2 years. Yes. So it's not something you would think of it. If you suit us in Lagos, or you suit people in Does it suit them? Those sitting in London, guys offshore Angola, does this suit them? Or the guys in Niger, does this, various places where we have operations, because it has to be one single software. It took over more than 2 years. So having defined the terms of reference to the steering committee, don't forget who I told you the steering committees are representative of various units. Then you now form the study group. Who are the study group? Now, I've mentioned to you that the steering committee will come first. Who most likely are reps from various units or from various departments, head of finance, head of HR, but you don't expect that these people will have time to be following the system analysis from bomber to bomber to ensure that this software rather is up and running. You don't expect that. So what happens? So maybe the head of finance now may now nominate one person. Maybe you can nominate the financial controller to be representing her and following up with the developer or the system analyst on day-to-day and liaising with instead of her or instead of him as the head of finance. So that small group, that small subset that is carved out from the steering committee, who will be working very closely with the system analyst, is the study group. Then we're looking at the stages of feasibility study. I said, start with the formation of the steering committee. I told you who steering committees are. Give them terms of reference. Then form the study group, the day-to-day people.
Hello, sir. Please, I don't really understand that defining the terms of reference. What does it mean?
Okay. Have you been in a committee in church before? Or maybe in school on your undergraduate days? Maybe you're a building committee of your church or of your mosque. I don't know where you worship, or maybe a harvest committee or a committee for Children's Day. Have you been in something like that before?
Yes.
Good. So once you are formed like that in any committee, including at national assembly level, once you're forming in any committee, there are terms of reference that will be given to you. That terms of reference define what is expected from that group. You expected to deliver this software within 2 years. You expected that this software will serve all the departments. You expected that this bottleneck we usually have in reporting will be corrected by. It's expected that this committee will ensure that at the end of the day, the company does not, the spend is not more than the benefit. The cost does not outweigh the benefit. Those are terms of reference. And again, it's not casting stone. Depending on what's, like in my estate, I'm drafted into a committee to look at this fiber. There's a company trying to come in to lay fiber in the estates, all through the estate. Now, at the last meeting, I was drafted into that committee to look into what they are actually not coming to destroy our road. After destroying our road, the service won't be better than the ones that we had previously. So of course, we scheduled a meeting with them tomorrow. We're having a meeting with them tomorrow. But the resident has given us a terms of reference. Ensure that this company that is coming to lay fiber optic into the cable, into the estate, are one genuine, not like they will use it to, zap people's data and use it to commit fraud or provide a service that is expensive, but after they lay, you can't ask them to take it off again. So that's actually what terms of, once a group is formed, what is expected from that group to deliver is actually your terms of reference. Then you plan the study. This feasibility study we're going into, it has to be planned. It can't be done haphazardly. Don't forget, at the end of the day, you must give a report. Yeah, you must give a report at the end of the day. Then you define the problem and gather information. How do we intend to gather information? Like, for instance, I remember myself and a friend, Temitope, back then, this I'm telling you is more than 12 years ago, trying to do a software for a microfinance bank. The woman left then Oceanic Bank and set up a microfinance bank. They go about in the market collecting then 500 naira. I still remember very clearly. 500 naira from market women. So her idea is she's trying to bring that commercial banking idea. Of course, she left Oceanic Bank then, into that microfinance. So she spoke to myself and that my friend, he is in UK now. Temitope. Like what she wants is once a marketers goes out to collect those collection, those is it Susu or Joe they call it, collect from those market women. They want the situation by if they come back, apart from marking that paper, they mark for the women, if they come back, they should post it on the system so that this, the at any point in time they can come and check or even ask for statements of how much they've deposited with them. Typical banking, then some of them now come for loan. She wants the system to, once you're collecting 50,000, 70,000 naira loan at this interest, let the system do that. That's your normal loan amortization. So at the end of the day, we know how much interest the person is paying, as at what tenor and all. So she explained all the whole thing to us, then went into work. But before we went into it, we needed to gather information. Like I could say so much about that microfinance. Of course, I'm not a staff there. I could say much about them because of the information we gathered then. This I'm telling you over 12 years ago. Yeah, over 12 years ago. This is 2025 now. Yeah, over 12 years ago. So I could say much about the operations because of the information we gathered. So you must define, you must determine how do you intend to gather this information. You want to interview them, you want to send questionnaire, you want to observe yourself, you want to elicit, you want to do a group study, or you want to, just observe them do their work, do their posting. They are all data collection or data or information that you are gathering. Then having done that, you must assess the feasibility. The feasibility, is it economically feasible? Do we have the money? Like for instance, my company moving from Sun to SAP, that money that is spent on SAP can take care of the staff salary for more than 2 years. Yes, can take care of the staff salary for more than 2 years. It's a lot. It's an investment. It's an investment. It's huge, and it's in USD. Of course, it's a foreign software. It can pay staff the entire staff salary for more than 2 years. But still, the company went into it because they know the benefits they would get, on the long run. So you must be sure that assess the feasibility of that, project you're going into. Is it economically feasible? Is it culturally feasible? If you have a culture of Oga is not around, you have to wait for Oga to come and sign, and you're bringing in a software that doesn't require anywhere you are in the world, you can access. I told you, my direct boss, most times she's not in Nigeria. She spent time more in the London office than Nigeria here. But hey, guess what? Work still goes. Work still goes. In fact, there are some things I'm going to send to her after this class, after this meeting with you. There's still some report I'm going to send to her, and she most likely will approve it before tomorrow, if I get to the office tomorrow. This is, and of course, she's not around at the moment. So if you have a culture of a guy is not around, pack the file there, that means ERP may not work for that organization. So you must ensure that you must assess the culture and ensure that it's feasible, that this project you're bringing in is feasible to that. So you must assess economical feasibility, assess the cultural feasibility, assess the technical feasibility. The people you're even bringing into, are they knowledgeable enough to even handle the software, having implemented it? Yeah, are they knowledgeable enough? So if they are not, then you must hold on a little and train them first. Even if it's basic computer training, train them on how to use the system before even bringing your software. Otherwise, you introduce the software, they will frustrate it. Okay. You identify the project. At the end of the day, you must write a report. You must write, in all this I've been saying, you must write a report that will be presented. It is when that report is presented to the management and the management gives a nod to it, then you can go ahead with the project. Yeah, so those are the basic stages you go through in the planning process, which we refer to as the feasibility study. So that's what all this note is talking about. So the steering committee comprises of members of various departments within the organization when developing a new system. So what are their work? Determine the IT resources that they need to, ensure that all IT resources are in line with the strategic plan of the firm, ensure that all allocation is effective, ensure that they monitor the project, ensure that you can see that is basically, the job of that steering committee. Just like I mentioned to the lady who asked me what's terms of reference. Once you're in a committee, what is expected from you guys are basically what the terms of reference is. Then I mentioned the study group. So, that consists of, the analyst and some persons, within, not necessarily members, but most times members of the steering committee are still the members of the study group, depending on how less busy you are, as it were. Okay. Then I have mentioned to you before, you assess the feasibility, the technical feasibility, the operational feasibility, social feasibility, which you can call cultural feasibility, and economic feasibility, which has to do with Naira and Kobo. How much this thing you're going to spend. Like, for instance, I don't expect an SME, a medium-sized firm, to be investing in SAP. How? The cost of SAP implementation is more than the capital of that SME. So it doesn't make sense. Yes, it's more than the capital of the SME. So why not go for a simple accounting software, your QuickBook and your Sage and the rest? So, as I said, in assessing feasibility, the technical feasibility is concerned about the ability of the software or the hardware to handle the volume of transaction. Don't install something that is will be rolling because of the volume that's the volume that it handles. Take for instance, you can't compare okay, there was a bookshop. I'm not going to mention the bookshop is attached to a church. It's somewhere around the Jaconde that I did something for, like 5 years ago or thereabouts. So they were keeping their inventory, normal inventory. It's a big bookshop. It's attached to a church. It's this Jaconde, but I'm not going to mention the name of the church. Quite a big bookshop. They're keeping their normal records, normal manual inventory. Normal when you buy, you take off and all. So somehow I got to know one of them who introduced me to the head pastor and said that he's been talking about automating the inventory and all. So we got talking and all. So I remember the first meeting I had with the 3 ladies or women who actually mans the store. I could see that. Who is this one? Where are you coming from? From where to where? Of course, they couldn't tell me. Of course, they know I'm coming from the head pastor, who is the employer. But I could read it from their body language. Like, where are you coming from? Like, from where to where? I had to, like, hey, ladies, let's drop this first. I'm here to prefer a solution that would even help you. So when I got talking with that, okay, I asked them, okay, are there a time where you made sales in a day and try to count, the funds at the end of the day, and the money you shot? I said, in fact, they shouted they crossed it almost every day. I said, fine. So with what we are going to do at the end of the day, those issues, and guess what? They don't even send them. Once there's shortage, you pay with your money. And I'm sure you are not very comfortable paying, money that you can't really account for. Of course, they said yes. So, so that, got their attention, like, because their thought was, this one is trying to bring something that will take our job, which is not true. But rather, I was actually preferring a solution. So, why I'm saying this is, tomorrow you can be, okay, we'll even talk about it when you'll be interviewing, people during data collection. What are the things that's expected that you should know or do? So, as I said, you assess for operational feasibility, ensuring that it suits, the typical operations the company does. I didn't expect maybe a company like maybe ShopRite now that has a lot of inventory to be using one pack software. Otherwise, the volume of transaction can even crash the software itself. Yeah, ensure the social feasibility, if it supports the culture of the firm, ensure the economic feasibility, and at the end of the day, take note of the cost implication. As I've mentioned that cost a lot, take note of the cost implication. And this cost implication can come from development costs, cost of installing the software itself. Like SAP, it's a German software. They flew them in to go and install the software here. I know what it means to get some experts from Germany to go and install here. Get some of us to go across for the training. Get some people here to get to Echo Hotel, like 2 weeks to do their own training in Echo Hotel. While some did theirs in the office. Because if they're doing this in the office, all work for them is short. The guy who is coming to train them, of course, is paid for. How many hours he spends and all. What does that cost? And huge cost for that matter. So you look at the development costs, look at the capital cost of acquiring the software, and if you're moving from maybe a company that don't have a software before, so you're going from ground zero. So what it means is that at first and foremost, you must go and buy systems first. Yes, a Dell laptop now, very good Dell laptop now is over $1 million. Yeah, it's over $1 million. And how many are you buying for? On my floor alone, I sit on the 10th floor. On my floor alone, we're about 30. We're about 30 on that floor. So imagine that's one laptop you're buying for. I mean, if it's a company that don't have the system before, they were keeping manual records before. So it's quite a huge capital outlay. So you must, then the migration costs, how much you would use in training staff, testing the system, doing the file conversion. Then the operating system cost itself. That I've mentioned before, if you don't have the software, you must buy. And again, if you require that, you would have to be paying subscription, to maintain a certain software. Because these are things you have to, take into cognizance. And at the end of all these things that you have checked, you will not do a proper report. So typically, a feasibility report typically will have an introduction. This feasibility report was carried out in order to ascertain the operational, technical, and blah, blah, blah feasibility of this software to XYZ limit time. The introduction, terms of reference, the standing committee was set up and blah, 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 blah. You keep describing the existence. You must tell us what the existing system was. The existing system was was an accounting software who has blah, blah, blah limitations, unable to, you must describe that. Then you now tell us about the new software. Tell us what it requires. We require, 40 gig capacity system. We require, a minimum of, Intel. We require. So you tell us all those. Then what are the plans you have to implement? Okay, first we'll have the first 2 months will be on training. Some will be on the system. Some will be in the classroom. Some will be on the job. You must tell us all those. Then tell us, what do we stand to benefit from the new system you are bringing in? Tell us the cost implication. Tell us the cost benefit analysis. Do the analysis clearly. Like, we're using the software, we would have XYZ. We're using the software, we'll have this. If we're using the software, this, customer will be more attended to on time. Our inventories will be up to date. We'll be able to produce our financials within the first quarter of the next year, as against, that at the end of the day, you conclude and now recommend. From the foregoing, we strongly recommend that the company should invest in this project, as it will, you go ahead and list that. So this ends the first stage of the whole process. Don't forget, we're looking at the system development life cycle. As I said, it's a cycle. So this ends the first stage. By the time you write the report and submit the report, and the management gives you a go ahead. So this is the end of the first stage. So we can go to the second stage, which is the requirement analysis and initial design. So it is here. Then I said, okay, they've given me go ahead. They want us to do it. Okay, what are the things I require? Then you go ahead and, okay, for me to be able to understand the companies. Don't forget, you're not a staff there. You're a consultant that was brought in. Yeah. So you're not a staff there. So for me to understand the nature of the business, I have to gather data. Then you have to sit your ass down and ask yourself, how do I gather data from? Because it is data you gather that will determine that will give you a fair share, of how the company operates. Yes. So if you gather the wrong data, most likely you will miss the software. What you will develop will not suit them. Yes, you just gather data, and the data you gather doesn't suit what they want, what the operations actually speaks. So the first question you want to ask yourself, how do I now gather those data? I can answer this question before. Method of data gathering. Yes. So how do I get that data? So you can get that data in various ways. The first one, which is very popular and common, is interview. In a whereby there is a face-to-face conversation between you, the interviewer, and the interviewee. You asking questions is the interviewer. The person that is being asked is the interviewee. And of course, you're going to go through interview. You must first know, who do you want to interview? When do you want to interview them? That's like, I remember the white guy was always interrupting during doing our regular work. Sorry, can I have a quick 5 minutes with you? Of course, you're obliging. If you're not, oh, sorry, Mr. Man, can we do during break time? Can we do end of? You can. So him, the consultant, you, the consultant, you must know when your interviewee is best. Okay, you know what, Mark? Like, can we see tomorrow morning? First thing tomorrow morning, once we resume. Is that fine by you? Oh, sure, fine. Both of you agree. Then tomorrow morning, you see him come to you. You guys can have a 1 hour discussion. Then he moves to another person. So you must know whom you are interviewing when, and you must be able to know the questions to ask. Don't ask questions that is not relevant to the project you're doing, because that can be a piece of, it can be a piece of. Imagine asking me about my operations and you're asking me what are my qualifications. How does that has to do with what's, the project at hand? It may not be useful here, but it may be useful in another kind of project. But this particular one of developing a new software for us that will use for my operation, how does that, my qualification has to do with it? So you just stick to questions that would help you, get clarity and all. And of course, during the interview, I said, explain the purpose. Okay, well, why do you want to interview me? Oh, clearly, I need to get some data. I need to get how, or get to know how you carry, how you make payments. Why? Because the process in which you do is exactly what I'm going to use in developing the software, and thereby making the software a bit much easier than the current one you're using. So you have to, in clear terms, explain to the interviewee why you are interviewing him or her in clear terms. I remember that microfinance too. Of course, the same thing we did to those ladies who goes out to collect money. I think about 12 or thereabout. Myself and Tim Jopper. I took a section, he took also a part, trying to tell them the reason why, and trying to even, visualize, okay, when we start doing it, this is how it's going to, and what have you. Okay, and I said during the interview, you make sure at every point in time, it's not a do or die. It's not a job interview. Put the interviewer at ease. At times, I'm talking to you as a consultant. I'm talking to you as a professional. Crack some joke to, ease off the tension. Of course, nobody likes change. As human, we are averse to change. Like, we are averse to change. We like that traditional, like as most of you have been clamoring, let him come to class. Let him come to class. I know it's a change from the convention that I used to having a physical, a lecturer being with us in physical. But trust me, there are 1,001 courses I've done online, different part of the country, that I never saw, my lecturer. But here I am. The knowledge is, of course, not in doubt. And what have you? But don't worry, I'll find time to come for the last class in both centers. In both centers. Okay, so that said, so put interviewee at ease, the person you interview, put the person at ease. And again, whatever the person comes up with, do not condemn that person. Because if you do, the chances of the person, running back to his shell is high. So that thing you're actually looking for, the person will not be a bit careful. It looks like this guy, looks like he will go and report, try to, as much as possible, be as free as possible. Okay. So the second way, I've talked about the first way, which is through interview. The second way you can get or gather information is through a questionnaire. Questionnaire, if you, of course, it's expected that your chapter 4 of your undergraduate project, it's expected that you should develop a questionnaire and distribute those questionnaire. If you actually did your project yourself, you know what I'm talking about. If you did yourself chapter 4, you should have developed a questionnaire, distribute it, and collect them. Of course, one of the advantages of questionnaire is that, compared to interview, is that it reach wider. You're able to reach wider audience. Yeah, some mail questionnaire. Yeah, some mail questionnaire. Just mail it. In fact, you even use Google Form, which is very common now, to send questionnaire to different people, different field, different part of the world, as against interview. So if you're going to interview me, we must surely see now, most likely, or we'll do one-on-one as I'm talking to you, via this Zoom platform. But it has to be one-on-one, and it's time consuming compared to questionnaire. Questionnaire, once you just shoot, you can shoot to 2,000 people. Those that return it, those that didn't return, fine. But you reach out to a larger audience. But the problem about questionnaire is you are not able to get instant feedback. Unlike interview, like I could ask Toyib, how do you make payments? Oh, Toyib told me, okay, I click on this, I click on this, I do this, I do that. Because I'm getting instant feedback. As against sending a questionnaire out, which Toyib is one of the recipients. Of course, it's going to take time. But some you can even dump it. Please. So but have it in mind. Another way to get data or collect data is through questionnaire. Excuse me. Another way again to collect data is through observation. Observation is that you have to sit with them, go sit with them and observe how they carry out the operations. Like for instance, you can maybe for a teller, you just walk up and observe him attend to a customer who comes to deposit money. What do you do first? Okay, greet, collect, count, ensure, bundle it into 100 notes, take off the wrapper there, put your own wrapper, post, watch the time. Is there any way that we can do it that will reduce the time or make it better? What are you doing? You're observing. What are you doing? You're collecting data. Okay. Then through measurement too. Measurement requires all manner of statistical analysis that you can carry out. Let me even say how many ledgers that you raise or how many transactions you post on daily basis. You can also gather information from that. Even through elicitation. Elicitation means you gather a group of people and ask them questions. Very closely to like workshop too. Workshop is, of course, it's a group of person and discussion is going around. It's not like it's coming from you. It's coming from you. No. Workshop is everybody have to contribute to it. But elicitation is, you gather, of course, that has to be a group of persons or users as it were. Then you start asking them. As you're doing that, you're extracting information from them. It's a way to also gather data. Then you can do background research. Don't talk to anybody. Carry out research yourself and find out within yourself. Then there's special purpose survey too, which you can also record. You can also record as you are observing. You don't know it takes them 5 minutes to attend to a customer. It took them 4 minutes to do it. It took them 30 minutes to make a single payment. So that's you can all do. So what we've done so far is we've been able to look at various methods of gathering data. Don't forget, it's this data that you gather that you eventually would use to build the software. Okay. Then, having done this, there's something called requests. Just go through those steps. There's something called request for proposal. You can see this in your OBJ in case. So request for proposal is there's an expectation from the client, from the user. There's something they're expecting that this software will be able to do at the end of the day. So this request for proposal is, how do I say, a series of questions, that the end user would raise, asking you to confirm, you, the analyst, asking you to confirm if the software can actually be able to do all those things. Like if you look at the list of questions, the litany of questions here, if you notice they all ended with a question mark. How many functions does this requirement? How many functions can this be supported? How extensive can this be? Which function cannot be supported? How is the package able to support the future and the current needs of the organization? Because it is in question. And guess what? If you, the analyst, answers this, which is expected that you answer it anyway, If you answer it and you build that software is not measuring up to what these questions are. So this is like a trap for you, because anyone you answer here, a very smart client, at the end of the day, this is what he will use to judge you when you have installed the software. Okay, it's called request for proposal. It's a list of questions that is submitted to the vendor of a package, asking him or her to confirm if the package is, or if the software can be able to, attend to all this. Okay, so having gone through this, it is now time to sit down and design the software. Now time to do a detailed design. So here, you are actually creating a logical and physical design. Logical design is, the workflow at the background. If you click submit, does it actually go to your line manager or it goes straight to the MD? If it's up to this amount, does it go to leave your line manager and go to the MD direct, or it gets to? So all these are logical design. Then the physical design is the feel and look of the software. The feel and look of the software. Then you'll be able to manage, the coding. And of course, everybody is not code savvy, so you must be able to manage it and, put it in such a way that it's something that will be very user friendly. Then of course, you must be ready to tweak that software you are building to suit whatever thing that the customer or the client has told you. And of course, you must plan for training. That's very key. You must plan for training. You must plan for training. Very important. We'll come to training much later. Then in all of all these things you are doing, you must document. You must document. Very important. Very, very important, because this documentation, apart from helping you, the analyst, to actually do the work, develop the software, you can use it years to come to even modify the software. This accounting software does not have this IFRS requirements. You can, if you don't have those documentation, you can modify that. And don't forget, it may not be you. It can be someone else. But what this person just need to do is get the documents, then he or she will be able to do what? Modify, the software. It can also be used for training. Yes, it can also be used for training. And when there are errors in the software, it is that documentation that you will need to be able to trace and correct that error. And above all, when your auditors come, especially when you have a new software, he will definitely ask for that, because he will need it too in the audit process. Definitely, he will need it. I remember when we moved from Sun to SAP, that we had Deloitte. In fact, everybody knew that something, that finance was undergoing auditing, because they were acting all manner of ways. Because it was the first year, when that transition took place. It was the first year, so it's expected. So, but documentation would help you in streamlining all those. And the documentation can be even your normal computer manual on how to use, the system, setting up the system, security procedure, and whatever procedure you want. And whenever a message pops up, what does that message mean? These are what documentation should, contain. Then it can even be your operating system manual. What OS are you using? Is it Windows? Is it Linux? So whatever operating system you're using can actually have a manual. Okay. So documentation is very key, because this would help in when there is need for change. When there is need for change, that's when you know how important that document you are keeping. Then, having designed the software and taking note of all this that we've mentioned, it is now time to come and install it. You see all those English you've been speaking? Come and install it. Let's see it working in our own system. I I remember that. I remember that microfinance woman. Of course, from time to time, it took us over 6 months to get that software done. From time to time, of course, we'll go for presentations on a Thursday like this. From work, I'll catch up with them. Of course, we'll drive there and we'll make presentation to them. Say all these things. I remember that one evening, after making the presentation and speaking English, I said, Ifeanyi, be sure that this thing you are saying, that when we install this software, that this software will do exactly this thing. I've noted it down. I can't forget that day. We smiled over it. We smiled over it. Because the truth is, it is those things that you see that you'll be used, that they will use in judging you. And of course, it's not everything you say that you remember. That's why you have to document it. So when you are building this, when you sit on your system to actually be the middle of the night that you wake up to do your coding, that you do your, it is that documentation you fall back to remember, okay, no, she wants, like if she wants, a certain percentage of the loan to be my main fee, a certain percentage to be, it's all of them that gives, that's the total cost of capital. So all those you must, break all those into what the clients want. So having designed, it's now time to come and install the software, because you must make sure that the company has, the adequate hardware that is required. You have a good system, that can be able to, carry, that may be able to carry the software you're actually bringing, So having installed the software, and the installation of the software, of course, if you are the one that designed the software and you design it to suit the company, or it is designed to suit the clients, it is referred to as bespoke software. But if it's something you just go to the market to just buy, you just buy like Peachtree, I can go to the market, to QuickBook, I can go to the market to buy QuickBook and Peachtree and install. Those ones are referred to as off the shelf. They are referred to as off the shelf. But if it's actually built for your own purpose, your sole purpose, it's referred to as bespoke. So take notes in case you see it in OBJ. The software that is built for, that is customized to suit a client's need is referred to as bespoke. But the one you buy from, the one that is already designed, that is already created already, that one is referred to as off the shelf. Okay. So each of them has their own advantage and each has their own disadvantage. For instance, for off the shelf, the one that's already built, that's already designed, because it's usually high quality. There's no software you want to design that will be more than that Microsoft has designed and they are selling it. So they are usually of high quality and usually is regularly updated, unlike the one you did. That is when you feel like updating, you update it. And again, it's generally cheaper. Yeah, generally cheaper, especially with the piracy in the country. Softwares are far, far more cheaper than, I don't know how many, apart from companies, how many individuals that will bring out about, with the current exchange rate of dollar, about 200 something thousand to buy just one Microsoft Word. So think of it. How many people will do that? Of course, very few, including I speaking. Very few. Because that is one out of how many software I have in my system. So apart from companies, as I said, individuals most likely. So, but generally cheaper off the shelf compared to, but the disadvantage is that they did not build that software to suit your purpose. That's why at times there's some things you may want to do in Excel. You won't be able to, you just be finding a way around it. But if Excel was actually built for you, it's customized for you, of course, you should be able to do that without much, much ado. And again, one of the disadvantages of off the shelf is you will constantly have to depend on the owner. Like we all constantly have to depend on Microsoft. If tomorrow Microsoft vests and say they are withdrawing all their software, which software would you now use? You must, constantly depend on that company that's off the shelf. The advantage of bespoke is the one that is built for you, is that it's specifically written to suit the organization's needs specifically. And of course, since you have other softwares in the company and it is built having your company at the center of the operation, you must be able to you must be compatible with other softwares. Unlike when you just go and buy anyone from outside, it may not suit. That at any point in time, you can always get the analyst to modify. Like I remember when VAT was moved from 5% to 7.5. Of course, I remember that woman called us. We need to come and do the back end change, then of course VITE has been increased from 7.5. Or even when she changed her when this PenCom changed pension used to be 7.5, 7.5, 7.5 employee, 7.5 employer. Yeah, but when he changed it to employee 10%, employer 10%, employee 8%. Of course, we're also there to make those changes so that the system keep, calculating properly. So why am I saying this? I'm just trying to, mention the advantage in case, you're asked to write on it or you sit in your OBJ, you should know the right thing to do. So we're looking at the advantage and disadvantage of the bespoke. So for the disadvantage, it takes time. It takes time. You can't hurry the developer to quickly get your software, but it requires thinking. I remember then when I come back from work, I first sleep, then wake up like 2 a.m. Then I start, running the code till like 4. Same thing with Timtok, but he was doing a part. I was doing a part. Weekend we'll see and consolidate what we've done. It took us more than 6 months to get that software out. More than. And that is because we're still very young. If it's now that I won't don't have time again, I will to accept to do that work. You can't even see me, sir. Let alone, but then we're relatively young. What we're just doing after work, nothing much. So work away, and this is side funds coming in because we're able to do that and all. But if it's now, after this your class, I have some reports I need to do and push out those nights. So that time will not be there. And what time do you now sleep? What time do you now wake up tomorrow morning to start driving to? So, so that is one of the disadvantages of the bespoke because it takes a long time. It takes a long time to develop, and that's the truth. It takes a long time to develop. Then there's greater possibility of bug. Bug means error. Yeah, of course, when we finish now, when we run it now, there was errors now, definitely. There were errors, which of course we'll have to sit back to correct. And of course, it's not cheap. Yeah, it's not cheap. To do a software that suits you, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. It's quite expensive compared to, off the shelf that you can easily go and buy. Then I've mentioned training to you. This is very, very key. In all the software you're trying to install or whatever thing you're trying to do, you must have training at the back of your mind. Otherwise, the people you are bringing the thing will just be looking at you. You two will be looking at it. You'll be looking at you. You'll be looking at it. Why? Yes, I mean, what you cannot use, you cannot use. And it's not like you don't know, you don't know. And of course, if you know, you know, as they say. So this training can go from, apart from even using that software, it can be as basic as normal. Of course, I've been in a training or some people where I asked somebody to come and hold the mouse. Years ago, I person held the mouse like a mouse, like a game pad. Yeah, person held the mouse like a game pad. What does that tell you? So you're trying to bring your software and start training the person on that software. Sorry, when the person couldn't even hold mouse properly. So first, we have to jettison the software I came for and do a basic, Windows training first for like 2 days. This thing is happening in Abuja, like 2 days. There's a ministry that, we did a training for. First, I have to jettison whatever software we wanted to talk about with them, train them on, and do a training first, like 2 days on how to use the system. And I appreciate the system first before we now went into, the software proper. Okay. So training is very key and very important. And this level of training can go from the guys at the top, the strategic guys, the operational guys, and the tactical guys. Of course, you understand. It's raining on the island here. I don't know where you are if it's raining there. Okay. So the operational training, we're talking about those on the, the lower cadre, those that will do the normal recording day to day and what have you. Then the tactical, we're talking about the guys at the middle level managers. Then the strategic guys who are, CEO. Everything they do is summary. They don't need details. Everything they need is summary of everything. Please, can you just give me a minute? Let me check up my, let me be sure I have my, all the places covered. It's raining actually. It's raining here. Give me a minute, please.
He asked for a few minutes to check up if he closed, every part of his house is raining. So that's
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what it means that you were not listening to me before. The person
No,
that asked
briefly.
it means you're not listening to me, or you're not following me. Anyway, I'm back. So I was talking about training and the levels of training. As I said, there are guys at the strategic level that has to, that's usually very summarized. The CEO, all those people with OOO in their name, CEO, CFO, COO, just name them. Summarize, straight to the point, no much. Theirs are usually to take strategic decision. That's why you see your executive information system, your GSS, and the MIS. They're the guys that use it. Then the tactical are usually the line managers, head of departments, the middle line managers, and the operational guys are, the day-to-day guys. So this training, you must take cognizance of them, because I remember too, when they were training us on the usage of SAP, of course, they didn't group all of us together. They tried to separate, apart from those that they know that who will be handing over the software, that they put them in, as it were, they put them in different categories. Okay, so having installed the software, then you have to test. Yeah, you have to test. Why are we testing? To ensure that what we have installed, to ensure that what we have installed is actually producing, what is agreed. So in such a way that when I click process, is the system actually processing it, or is doing something else? These are things you have to, you have to test the interface, the stability, are you able to modify your data and what have you? And in all this, don't forget, the company in question may have been using a certain software before. Good example, we're using my own company as an example. We were using Sun, and of course, we're generating data on a daily basis. So if you're bringing SAP to us, how do you convert our Sun data? Or we're using QuickBook before, or Sage Peachtree. Now you're introducing, or we're using Excel self. Now you want to introduce a software to us. How do you pick our data? Or because we're bringing a new software, we now jettison the old one? The answer is a no. Data is for life. It's continuous. Right? It's continuous. So how do you bring in that software? The data will be generating for years, yes, into the new software. So that's what file conversion is all about. Very important, but this is a very critical aspect of system development lifecycle, file conversion. Because I remember Access Bank and Diamond Bank, it gave Access Bank real trouble. If you remember then, I have a friend that works in their IT, in the head office. He gave them real trouble. Because of course, Diamond Bank was a bigger bank, had a more robust system than Access Bank of then. But they had to swallow something that was bigger. So what it means is that it was such an elegant tax. I remember my friend sleeping in the office for some time. What I mean, I didn't say days, for some time, just to ensure that the conversion is seamless. So file conversion, we're talking about how you're able to migrate data from the old system and get them to the new system without losing any of all those. And in doing this, first you must make sure that that all the source documents are complete and correct, and they have to be up to date as well. Let's assume you're moving from manual to electronic. You have to ensure that manual accounting record that you keep or you are keeping is up to date and is complete. And you must do this for all the departments that you want to migrate. Okay. Then in all this, you must plan for the conversion. I remember then, Access Bank, they were closing by 2. Yes. They were closing by 2 on daily basis for like 2 weeks before they finally did that cutoff to become one single bank. So, as I said, if you're doing the conversion, you must ensure that the original file is up to date must know where the file is, and you must ensure that it's suitable when you're doing the data conversion. You must know the volume that is involved. That will determine, the size of data you're expecting to work with and what have you. Then there are various methods in which this conversion can be done. By the way, this conversion is known as changeover. I can ask question in this regards. Changeover, methods of changing over. So there are quite a number of methods. I think about 3. We'll talk about them. And each of them has its own unique advantage. 4 rather, its own unique advantage. So we'll just take them one by one. So the first one is direct changeover. So direct changeover is, you know how you change from NEPA to generator. So when we say direct changeover, we're looking at a situation whereby you jettison the old system. You stop using the old system and move to the new system immediately. Immediately, as in no hesitation. This method is not common, but some organizations do it, especially organizations that don't have much data. Yeah, they do it. Direct changeover, the old one is replaced with the new one immediately. No time for it's replaced. The advantage is that the new one is available immediately for use. That's one of the advantage. And again, it's cheaper because you don't have to be incurring costs running this one and running this one. You just switch off this and switch on this. Okay. The second one is parallel changeover. Because you know what parallel means? 2 lines running together. So parallel changeover is that the old one will be running and the new one will be running simultaneously. This is one that is very common. But this one banks uses. Even to when we're doing a migration, this is what we use from Sun to SAP. We use the parallel. Those accounting guys will still post it in Sun and they'll post in SAP. They'll post in Sun, they'll post in SAP. The good thing about this one is that it gives you time to study the new one and internalize the new one. It gives you time to be able to see if the new one is actually doing what is expected of it. But the problem with this parallel changeover is it is not all systems that you may want to run 2 different systems at once. It's not all process that will give you that room to be running 2 different systems. And again, no matter how you look at it, as I said, they will post in Sun, they will post in SAP. And I like it or not, it's duplication of work. Yes, duplication of work. And and since you're duplicating work, what it means is that the volume will be more because you're doing times 2. And if you're not careful, you require more staff by way of running that parallel changeover. This really is heavy. Okay, so those are the disadvantage, as I mentioned, for parallel. So there is phase changeover. Now, phase changeover is, as the name goes, phase is done in phases. Okay, guys, you know what? Today would migrate all the current account holders of this bank today. Next week, we would focus on savings accounts only. We'll migrate their data. What are you doing? You're doing it in phases. Hey, guys, you know what? We'll migrate all those writing foundation this year. Those writing foundation, I can decide that, okay, let's migrate them to the new system. By next diet, we'll migrate all those in skills. Then by the upper diet, we'll migrate all those in professional. What have they done? They succeeded in migrating in phases. That is phase changeover. That's phase changeover. So, but the good thing is that, as you're doing the phase from one phase to another, the output of this one can be used as the input of the other one. So it's very, very available. And again, one of the disadvantages is that it's not all tasks that you can do in phases. Yes. Some tasks require that you have to start it and finish it. Yes, you have to start and finish it as against doing them in phases. Okay? So I can want you to know the critical success factor for implementation. What do we mean by that? What is it that when you see, or what you should be looking out for you to say, yes, this project was properly done or properly carried out or properly implemented. So the first one is cost. As I said before, the cost must not outweigh the benefits. How long does it take, or did it take, like as I told us, to move from Sun to SAP? It took over 2 years. And guess what? We were given an award by SAP of being one of the fastest, one of the fastest they implemented in the industry. Not in Nigeria, in the industry, including outside the country. The company was given that award. Something we did in 2 years. And to some people, 2 years was very long. But for when SAP when they now brought the award, it was like, are you kidding us? But it happened. Okay, so shortfall in capacity, these are things you would look out for when you are evaluating, what you actually did. Was the system poorly implemented? Was the design, properly done? The planning, how was it? Does it involve those that would eventually use the software? Did they use the appropriate people that knows the software? Are they giving us software of years or the most recent one? These are things you would look out for once the implementation is concluded. And we that they did it for, did we actually appreciate what was done? Do we appreciate what was done? Okay. So we have done the changeover. You have migrated from the old system. You are now in the new system. But guess what? You will not leave the old system like that. If you leave it like that, it will develop some issues. So it has to be maintained. It has to be maintained. So there are basically 3 ways in which you can maintain your data. It can be perfective. So perfective maintenance means trying to cross the T and dot the I's. If there's small, part that needs, we need to switch by when we click submit, let's submit to this ledger immediately, not going from this one to this one. What are you doing? You are carrying out a perfective maintenance. Then there's adaptive maintenance. Here, adaptive maintenance here, we're looking at, that's which you do if there are changes. Like I told you about pension before. Pension before is employer 7.5, employee 7.5, making 15% previously. But PenCom changed it to 10%, 8%. That's 18% at the moment. So that requires some form of changes. The same thing with VAT. That requires some form of changes to adapt to the new one. If you go ahead to do that, that's adaptive maintenance. Then there are some that you need to do to prevent bug. BUG, bug, is referred to as error in programming. Oh, this software has got bug, means that the software has error. Okay, so if there are errors or if there are bugs in the software, you need to carry out a preventive maintenance, to be able to correct such problem. So, gentlemen, if you look at, and ladies, if you look at what we've been talking about for the past an hour or thereabouts, about an hour, you will notice that I was addressing this diagram here. If you notice, I started with planning, and I just spoke about maintenance. So you can see this diagram. That's why I put this diagram at the beginning. We have been able to go through it up to the end. That's what is referred to as system development life cycle. Starting with the planning stage, getting to the feasibility study, carry out the feasibility study. How feasible is it? Economic, social, technical, do all those. Get a report out of it. Submit it to the top management for approval. Once they give a go ahead, do your analysis. What do I need? What do I don't need? Do you understand the operations? I don't understand. I need to gather data. How do I gather data? I need to speak to them. I need to send them questionnaire. I need to observe. I need to measure. I need to elucidate. I need to conduct a workshop where they speak to me and I speak to them. Once I gather those data, I'll sit my ass down and get the design of that software out based on the information I've gotten from them. Once I've done the design, the next thing is to develop it. Once I develop it, all the whole English now becomes a reality. It now becomes a software. But for me to go to my client's place to install it, I have to test it. So that would help me minimize the errors, minimize the time of implementation. So once I test it and I discover that it's working, when I click submit, it's actually, I go to general ledger, I click, the person sell, the item reduce, a buy, the item increase. Oh, that is fine. I've tested, then I'll have to go and implement it. So implementing that, I have to take my time to teach, I have to take my time to train for them to appreciate. And as I said, if you discover that they are not computer savvy, leave your software first and teach them how to use the basic computer first, because that would help you. That would even help them to appreciate the software you are bringing. And that would also help you to reduce your headache. Okay. So having implemented it, having trained them, you won't leave it like that. It has to be maintained. And as I said, sorry, before you implementation, you must take cognizance of what they were doing before. So if they had data before, from the fact that they're getting a new system, you don't jettison the old data. So you have to find a way to get the old data into the new software. It is, you have to find a way to get the old data into the new system. And as I mentioned that to you, it's called changeover process. You can do a direct changeover, stop the old one and start the new one. You can do a parallel changeover, let the old one be running, let the new one be running. You can do a phase changeover. We'll do it in phases. We'll carry out this one first, we'll carry out the other. And at the end of the day, after implementing the software and it's run up and running, you do not leave it. It has to be maintained. And in maintaining it, you can do a effective maintenance, not some eyes plus some teeth. You can do a corrective maintenance. Oh, there was an error we noticed, we want to correct. You can do an adaptive maintenance in case there are changes in future, or if there are changes rather in legislation. You can go ahead and make such changes. Gentlemen and ladies, this is the end of my story on System Development Life Cycle. So by God's grace, God's willing, I will find stable time. It's not going to be this weekend, that's for sure. Next weekend is Easter. It's not going to be that as well. I'll find time to come to your class to have the final class. Find time to come to VI. Find time to come to Isolo. Hopefully I do that. But if I'm not able to do that, please bear with me. We will still have an online class to have the fifth and the final class. But I hope to work around it to come around the two centers to take you physically. But for me, really, it doesn't make any difference. Trust me, it doesn't make any difference. The same voice you're hearing, the same thing I'm saying, of course, based on the topic I'm teaching, the same thing you will hear. But I'll find time to come. But if it's not feasible and I discover that time is going, I would inform you. Then we'll have the fifth and the final class online. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you for those that joined early. Toib, I know you joined early. Well done. I see the much you're doing. Well done. Well done. It's impressive. And for those that joined early as well, I was early today too myself. Okay. So thank you very much. I will communicate when we have the fifth and the final class, either coming physically to your class or we have an online class as well. Thank you and have a good night rest.